You ever have one of those days? You know the ones where absolutely nothing seems to go right, your plans just fall apart, and you feel completely and utterly stuck. It's a feeling we all know. But what if I told you there's a way to navigate that frustration, to actually find a new path forward? Well, let's dive into a story that shows us exactly how to do that. This question right here, this is where our story really begins. It's a thought that, let's be honest, probably all of us have had when life just feels messy and unpredictable. And it's the exact question that was bouncing around in the mind of the person in our story, right before everything started to change. So let's meet Ritesh. Ritesh is a classic perfectionist. You know the type. Always believes that if he just plans every single detail perfectly, everything will work out. But then, one day, a huge presentation at work goes horribly, horribly wrong. His boss is critical, and that one single event sends him into a total spiral, just wondering why his life felt so completely out of his control. So Ritesh is lost in this funk, feeling pretty down, when he stumbles upon a book that ends up setting him on a completely new path. This is where he learns his very first powerful lesson, that maybe, just maybe, he's been looking at all his problems in the wrong way. Okay, so the very first lesson he learns is about this idea of impermanence. The concept is actually really simple, but it's profound. Nothing lasts forever. Not the good times, sure, but, and this is the important part, not the bad times either. Just understanding this one thing becomes the foundation for him letting go of so much anxiety. The book told this story that really made it all click for him. There's a sage who visits a village that's suffering from a terrible drought. The villagers are desperate, right? But the sage explains that their real suffering isn't the drought itself. It's their belief that this drought is permanent. Just like the weather, life's circumstances always change. For Ritesh, this was a huge eye-opener. That terrible presentation, it was just a moment in time. It wasn't his whole story. Now, with this new understanding, Ritesh doesn't just think differently, he starts to act differently. And this first insight builds right into the next phase of his journey, which is all about actively, consciously changing his daily mindset. The second lesson was gratitude. And I know, it sounds so simple, but it is incredibly powerful. The book explained that we so often focus on what we don't have, which just creates this constant feeling of scarcity, of not having enough. Gratitude is the tool that completely flips the script. It forces you to see the abundance that's already all around you. And hey, this wasn't just some vague concept. It was a super practical exercise. Ritesh literally starts a gratitude journal. Every single day, he writes down just 3 things he's thankful for. It's such a small action, but it begins to completely rewire his brain, changing how he sees his entire world. And look at this. This shows you the change perfectly. His internal monologue, that little voice in his head, starts to transform. Being stuck in traffic isn't a source of rage anymore. It's a moment to be thankful for even having a car. His parents' questions aren't nagging. He sees them now as a sign that they care. Gratitude literally reframed his entire reality. Okay, so Ritesh is getting better at handling the small, everyday annoyances, but what about the really big stuff? The things that are genuinely scary? Well, the next lesson teaches him not to run from them, but to actually walk right towards them. Now this is a real game changer. Welcoming discomfort. The whole idea is that difficult situations aren't just obstacles you're supposed to avoid. They're actually opportunities in disguise, chances to grow stronger, more capable, more resilient. Discomfort becomes your teacher, not your enemy. Just look at this progression here. Ritesh had a lifelong fear of public speaking, but by applying this new principle, he starts small. First, he just speaks up in a team meeting, even though his heart was pounding out of his chest. That one small act of welcoming the discomfort builds his confidence. And soon, he's actually volunteering for the very thing he used to fear, and eventually he's leading his team to success because of it. So just as Ritesh is building all this new momentum, life, of course, throws another curveball. A passion project he had poured months of his life into is suddenly canceled. And that is where he learns his fourth huge lesson: knowing when to let go. This isn't about giving up, it's about having the wisdom to recognize that some things have to end to make space for a new beginning. And this idea wasn't just about his job. Ritesh actively started to release all the things that were holding him back. Yeah, the project, of course, but also his crippling need for everything to be perfect, an old grudge he'd been holding on to with a friend, And maybe most importantly, the fear of what it even means to start over. By this point, Ritesh isn't just coping anymore. He's actually thriving. He's moving beyond just managing his problems to actively looking for the hidden gifts that are tucked away inside of them. And right here, we see a subtle but really powerful shift. He goes from just welcoming discomfort to seeing difficulties as essential opportunities. So when he's asked to lead a brand new complex project, he doesn't just tolerate the stress. He sees every single problem as a chance to discover what he and his team are truly capable of achieving. Another story from the book really hammered this idea home. A king places a giant boulder right in the middle of a main road. Everyone complains and just walks around it. But finally, a poor farmer struggles and manages to move it. And what does he find underneath? A bag of gold and a note with this message. The reward was always there, hidden right beneath the obstacle, but it was only available to the one person willing to actually face it. So Ritesh's transformation is now pretty much complete. His internal world has changed so dramatically that it starts to radiate outward, and it begins to positively impact the people all around him, leading him to his final crucial lesson. One day, a friend comes up to Ritesh and asks him, "How did you become so calm and positive all the time?" And as Ritesh starts to explain his journey, he realizes the final lesson. You have to share your light. The knowledge he gained only truly became wisdom the moment he used it to help someone else. So here they are, all 6 lessons together. This is the roadmap that took Ritesh from frustrated and stuck to focused and purposeful. It all starts by understanding that nothing lasts forever, then actively practicing gratitude for what you have right now. From there, it's about leaning into discomfort, knowing when to let go, finding the opportunity in every obstacle, and finally, sharing what you've learned with others. You know, if there's one idea that really ties this whole journey together, I think it's this. So many of these lessons are about letting go of control, of old habits, of grudges, of fear, because it's only when we clear out that old space that something new and beautiful finally has a chance to grow. And so that brings us back to you. Ritesh's entire journey began with just a single intentional step. So I'm going to leave you with this question. What is the one small thing you're holding on to so tightly that if you just let it go today, would create the space for something new and wonderful to finally begin?